Hello, Com 115 students. Welcome to week number 7. This week we have 2 items on the agenda. We will be reading the chapter in your textbook on listening, which I think is a very important topic. And then I'll also be introducing you to the informative research speech, which is one of my favorite speeches of the semester. So let's start off talking about that second thing first, the informative research speech. So you guys have just finished some time ago the process speech. You selected your topic for the process speech, wrote an outline, submitted a video, did peer feedback, and even did a self-reflection for the process speech. And you'll receive your full instructor feedback from me in your email inbox. We're getting ready to start that cycle all over again for the informative speech. So the informative research speech that we'll be looking at this week, and you'll be selecting your topics this week, is similar to the process speech in a number of ways. Both the process speech and the informative research speech are informative speeches. And then the process speech, you are teaching us how to do something in a step-by-step manner. But the process speech was an informative speech. For the informative research speech coming up, you'll still be teaching us something, but it doesn't have to be step-by-step anymore. So those requirements are taken away, and you get to exercise your creativity in both your topic selection and in the way that you choose to organize your speech. So that's one of the reasons that I'm excited about the speech, and one of the reasons I like it so much. You, as the student, get to continue to pick topics that are interesting to you and share your passion and your knowledge with us. Let me show you the weekly folder that I have built so far. Here we go. So you'll be reading this chapter on listening and critiquing speeches. We'll be discussing the chapter using the discussion board. You've got the assignment sheet here and your topic selection here. Here's the requirements for the topic selection. Of course, you have to read the assignment sheet and rubric first, which is found here. Okay, your topic should be informative rather than persuasive. In other words, you're teaching us information about something rather than specifically trying to change our minds or to influence our actions. So, for example, a topic like why Sonic the Hedgehog is better than Mario is clearly a persuasive topic and would not, therefore, be appropriate for this assignment. If you'd rather teach us about like the history of Sonic the Hedgehog, that would be fine because that's informative. And so that would meet this particular requirement. Topic should be creative and original. If multiple people pick exactly the same topic, then either person will get that topic, so be creative. And most importantly, your topic should be public affairs focused. Now let me explain what this means. As the assignment sheet says, what that means is the topic must have some broader political, social, historical, or cultural impact, and you'll be expected to explain to the audience why the topic matters to them. And so what we're trying to do here is to get us all to look kind of beyond our day-to-day life of whatever's happening in the dorms or at home, and talk instead about the kind of things that you see talked about maybe in the newspaper, or something else that there's a current conversation going on culturally. So one example that comes to my mind, and don't everyone pick this example, it's just an example, is I hear a lot of people talking about the Supreme Court right now with the recent passing of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And so this is another example of the difference between an informative speech and a persuasive speech. I hear a lot of people speaking persuasively about like why the Supreme Court seat should be filled immediately or why it shouldn't be. And of course, that's an interesting topic for a persuasive type of speech. But here we're just talking about informative speeches. So if I was opening the newspaper and I saw some inspiration for a speech in the form of a news story about the Supreme Court, the kinds of informative speech topics I would consider appropriate for this kind of speech would be something like the life and times of Ruth Bader Ginsburg would be an interesting speech, or the life and times of any other current or past Supreme Court justice. I think I know the name of the Chief Justice is like John Marshall, I think, and some other famous justices, Thurgood Marshall, and so on. So I could look up some of those biographies and see if I want to give a speech on any of those individuals. Talk about the history of the Supreme Court in general. I could talk about the judicial branch of the American government as opposed to the legislative or executive branches. And all of those would be appropriate speech topics. You can see how they're inspired by current events and they have that broader political, social, or cultural impact that the assignment sheet says we are looking for. So ask yourself, what's happening in the world? What are people talking about? And where does the things people are talking about intersect with the things that interest you? And those are good places to start when you think about topics for this speech. Also notice that it is called an informative research speech, not simply an informative speech. So that emphasizes the role of research. For the process speech that you just finished, no sources were required. You could pick your topic and talk about your topic, basically based entirely on your own knowledge. This is a big difference between the process speech you just finished and the informative research speech that's coming up. Certain number of sources will be required beyond your own knowledge. Let's take a look together at the assignment sheet. So here's the assignment sheet, which talks about the broader political, social, historical, cultural impact. It also talks about the difference between informative and persuasive topics, which was my Sonic the Hedgehog example. So this speech will be 5 to 7 minutes long. It's a short jump up from the process speech. And it has a minimum of 6 sources, all right? So we're looking at 6 sources for this speech. Those sources can be from the library, they can be from the databases, or they can be from credible websites. But make sure that you do some careful research, not just a quick Google search where you click on all the things that Google shows you first, but really cast a wide net and do some reading to learn more than you already know about the topic that you picked. That's why it's important to pick your topic early in the process, and then you'll have some time after the topic selection to do some genuine research and some genuine reading. Research and reading is one process that cannot be sped up. There's just no way to do it than to hunker down and find those sources and read them, because some of the sources you find may turn out not to be useful. And so you'll end up reading a lot more sources than you end up actually using in the speech if you're doing your research correctly. So for the outline of the speech, you'll be documenting all of your sources in APA style in the outline. And then for the actual delivery of the speech, for the speech video, of course, your listener won't have your outline to refer to. And so it's important that you cite all of your sources out loud in the speech, during the speech, in the moment, in the speech, when you use information from that source. You want to say, by the way, the information I just gave you is according to, and then you teach the audience where the source was and where they can go to find the source that you are referring to so they can go read more about it for themselves if they want. So you want to give what I would call a good, robust oral source citation when you are talking about your sources out loud to your audience. It's not enough just to say, according to Miller, and then zoom on with your speech, because the audience doesn't know which Miller you're talking about. So you want to say, according to, first and last name, and whether it's a book that you're talking about or a website, and if a website, what website was it? And if it's a website, how do you know it was a good website? Is it a website associated with a credible organization? How do you know it's credible? What's the history of that organization? So you'll take actually a good percentage of time in your informative speech just talking about the sources, in addition to talking about the information you got from the sources. And so that's what I mean when I say that a big focus of this speech is research. Note again, when you get down here to the rubric, this looks in some ways similar to the rubric for the process speech, and in some ways different. It's similar in that we still have an introduction, a body, a conclusion you'll be earning points for. And in the introduction, you want to do all those things that an introduction is supposed to do. You still have delivery for body and voice. Make sure that you are standing up, dressed up, far away from the camera enough so that we can see your gestures, speaking energetically. You will not be using presentation aids necessarily for the speech because we are online. But the new thing that's different from the process speech is all of this material here. 10, 20, 30, 40 points, which is a lot. A big percentage of the overall points comes from your quality of analysis, the credibility of your research, the quality, the variety of the research you use, and most importantly, what I was just talking about, the oral source citations, citing out loud where your information comes from if it's not common knowledge. When in doubt, cite. So I'm trying to prevent people from giving a generic informative speech and then therefore bombing the speech, because this is not a generic informative speech. This is specifically an informative research speech with specific research requirements. So take a close look at that assignment sheet, read it over, and use the information in that assignment sheet and rubric to inform your topic selection. And the other item we have this week is listening, or is the topic of listening. You just finished giving your peer feedback to your peers on their process speeches. And in doing that, you listened to a number of speeches. You gave some good peer feedback that hopefully the speakers found helpful. And in this chapter, you will find some more instruction and tips and tricks for giving feedback that is effective. So be sure to take a close look at that. Again, welcome to week 7. I am excited. We have one more week till we get to week 8, which is the halfway point of the semester. It's going by fast, and I'll only pick up speed from here. So I hope to see you in the office hours or hear from you through email if you have any questions, comments, or concerns.